All right, everyone, welcome back. We are having finished chapter 4. It is time to start chapter 4b here. And what we're going to be working on is this corridor, turning it into, or I should say, promoting a surface from the corridor, creating a boundary around that surface that follows the outside boundary of this corridor. And then we're going to create an additional surface that encloses a volume between the land and the surface that we create based on our road design. So let's keep moving forward. So at this point, I am simply going to click and right click to say I want to look at my corridor properties. And I'm going to go through a couple different options here. I just want you to see these. So when I get to corridor properties, I can navigate to the surfaces tab and there's nothing here. By clicking on this icon on the left, I can create a surface. So there's an option. I can click on this corridor and right click and say I want to look at the corridor surfaces. And I'm brought to pretty much the exact same dialog box, except the only two tabs that are associated with this dialog box are the surface type tabs that apply to this corridor. Okay, so that's an option. And of course, we have the way to see all this up here on basically our command bar. So if I click on the alternate arrow, I can look at my corridor properties, or one command to the right is this corridor surfaces. So either of these four options are going to bring me to this dialog box where I'm going to promote this corridor into a surface. So I'm simply going to, let's see, use my links. And by the way, I could use feature lines or links. And I'm going to start my surface at the top links, and I'm going to create that. And so now I get what's in my file, this thing called second try surface 2. And I'm going to click in here and change the name to Eagle Avenue surface. I think it's important to make sure that all of my promoted objects relative to the same basic road alignment have the same name, right? We can trace these things all the way from an original line all the way up to a final cut and fill. So I'm good there. And I then am going to, so this is the top. I'm now going to add some bottom limits. So I'm going to come over here and say I want to come down and use daylight cut as a bottom option, and then I click the green check mark, and daylight fill as an option and click the green check mark. And let's see, I think I'm going to click apply, and what should happen is I should get a new surface. Of course, Civil 3D comes up with a frequent error saying it needs to rebuild the corridor. And all this is Civil 3D's request that I do like an AutoCAD regen, or in SolidWorks it's like a rebuild. So I'll just say, of course, I want to rebuild the corridor. And looks like I've got all kinds of issues here. So I'm going to come over, close all those, click refresh. Yeah, so I'm getting a ton of information warnings, macro file not found. I really don't care. Let's see, I think I'm just going to leave that, come back over here, click OK. And let's see, close that out. And I can see over on the left here that I have this thing called Eagle Avenue surface. So normally I would think, hey, I'm golden, I'm pretty excited, I'm moving forward and things are looking good. And however, the surface that we just created should be what's following the outline exactly of this corridor. And if I rotate in 3D, what we see is that this surface is clearly kind of this big, huge rectangle, right? Not at all what we're looking for. So let's bring this back to plan view and talk about a couple issues here. So one potential issue, which doesn't appear to be the case here, is if my corridor extends past an existing surface, the corridor will waterfall right down to elevation 0. And when that happens, then the corridor can't close the surface and we get this really weird angle surface thing. Okay. And there is, as I just learned today, another potential option, and that's where Civil 3D is trying to create a boundary where the land changes from our road or curb level down to either down to or up to the existing land. And so this, if I follow along this red area, is supposedly how that all meets up mathematically. And the issue here is, right, we got like all kinds of overlapping surface. And turns out if I look at this other internal corner, I can see the exact same issue here. So in this particular case, this is what we're going to need to fix to make this Eagle Avenue corridor surface close inside of the road boundary. All right, so I think I've gone long enough for this chapter. We'll come back in the next chapter and make that fix and then continue to move on. Hope this is helpful, and we'll see you in the next section.